Butch Stearns joins me now, and this is the Patriots that we're used to watching over the course of the last 2 decades, just playing with a ton of confidence today, and you can see that ball got going in the right direction, and it makes such a huge difference.
This was their best win of the year, best win in a couple of years, wasn't it? 45-0. Let's start at the beginning, Tom. This team has been notorious, and there was a lot of talk this week about no fast starts. They came out, 13 plays, 75 yards, and scored twice. One of them was overruled, so they went in again. I mean, where did that come from? That set a tone for the entire game, didn't it?
You know, the urgency was there, and it's an urgency that you have to see down the stretch here. They knew at 4-6 that they likely had to win their remaining 6 games, but they had not been beating teams that they were supposed to beat, and we'll get into that shortly. They didn't show any signs of that today. They knew that this was a game that they had to win. They knew it was a team that they should beat, and they just beat them down from the outset, knowing that their special teams was awful all season. They took advantage of it right away.
Well, let's talk about that because that deserves the credit. I mean, when the Patriots play special teams like this, it's a thing of beauty. I don't think anybody in the league plays it like that. To have a punt return for a touchdown from Gunnar Olszewski today, to have a blocked kick for a touchdown, to have Justin Bethel running full speed and down the ball inside the 5-yard line, and Matthew Slater leading the way through all of them. I mean, when they play special teams like this, it speaks to their coaching, it speaks to their preparation, and it speaks to what Bill Belichick has been all about for 20 years as the Patriots head coach, out-coaching the other team, because that's what he did today, and special teams were the main reason.
We hear Matthew Slater talk all the time, and we appreciate him for the man he is, for the great insight he gives us, but what sometimes I think we don't appreciate about him is his ability to rub off on his unit as the captain. And I'm sure at this stage of the game, with all the experience under his belt, he looks at the rest of the guys and says, you know what? We're in a position with this team where we have to make a difference. So all of those specific plays you pointed out, that comes from leadership. And that's where having a guy like Matthew in that locker room and on that practice field can really help out. And it paid off today in a huge way.
I think it also comes from the Patriots led by Belichick prioritizing special teams. Justin Bethel, they go pick up him. They get criticized for having 5 or 6 guys on their roster because they're primarily special teams guys. They're not getting a lot of criticism tonight after this game, are they, Tom?
Absolutely not. And you know what? I was joking around with Jeff Howe. I said that Gunnar Olszewski had the Gordie Howe hat trick of football because he had a punt return for a touchdown, he had a reception for a touchdown, and he made a tackle. That's very rare in Patriots lore. I think some very unique company. Give Bob Heidelberg a lot of credit. He said the only 3 receivers who had returned a punt for a touchdown and actually caught a touchdown pass in history were Irving Fryer, Stanley Morgan, and Julian Edelman, who's done it twice. That is some elite company that Gunnar Olszewski joined today.
And, of course, another Belichick find, Division II, undrafted, comes in and does that. Hey, let's talk about the defense a little bit, Tom. I mean, they put up a shutout, obviously, but, again, Belichick, let's think about it. He didn't dare blitz Patrick Mahomes, and they played pretty well against him defensively. He did that to Deshaun Watson against Houston, and Watson picked them apart. But against a rookie quarterback like Hebert, he brought the blitz all game long, sacked him 3 times, pressured him all game, intercepted him twice. And I think you got to point out 4 guys who really deserve the credit. Dietrich Wise, Adam Butler, Chase Winovich, and Josh Uche, the 2nd-round pick. Boy, he's really starting to play well now, isn't he?
Certainly is. So let's talk a little bit about the playoff picture because we're down to 4 weeks, and the teams that the Patriots need to lose, Butch, unfortunately, are not losing.
Well, let's look ahead, and they're 10th in the AFC right now, and the teams ahead of them, the Browns, the Dolphins, Colts, and Raiders, all won today. The Ravens are the team right ahead of them, and they play Tuesday night, of course, because of all these COVID issues they have when they play Dallas. But again, we talked about this last week, Tom. The Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Ravens, they've beaten them. So there is a shot there. When I look at the playoff picture, I can't help but go backwards and look at their 6 losses, and I point out 3 of them. And I want to ask you the question. Denver, Buffalo, Houston. What was their worst loss? What is the one that if you asked everyone on that team, if you could have a win instead of a loss in that game, it would be the one?
I think they'd say Buffalo because it's a divisional game, but the one that bothers me the most is the Denver game because they had so much time, they were home, and they blew it, and they looked bad in the process, and it really deflated the team.
I agree from a perception perspective, but I think the Buffalo one is the worst one because it was right there. he had a chance to win it. And if you beat the Bills and they have one more loss, everything's possible, because who knows if the Dolphins can beat the Bills. The Patriots have owned the division for all these years. So I don't know. The bottom line is they're in this predicament because they lost those 4 games in a row and those 3 that I pointed out right there.
All right, Butch, thanks very much. 6-6, 4 games to go. Appreciate your thoughts.
All right.